I hope today that I can share some insights on home automation, some of the things I've learned. Home automation really is nothing new, but a recent boom in smart home tech has thrust it straight into the spotlight, you might say. There's smart home kits, sensors, gadgets that have been a dominating presence at CES for the past years, with big names like Apple, Google, GE, Microsoft right there in the thick of it. That's not surprising given the market experts predict that the smart homes market share will be worth tens of billions within the next few years. All that action adds up to a rapidly growing number of things in the Internet of Things, along with a variety of platforms competing for control to control them all. That might make the idea of getting your smart home started a little bit overwhelming. But let's not worry. It's actually easier than ever to start automating your home, provided you know a few options. So the question is, what is home automation? Home automation refers to the automatic and electronic control of household features, activities, appliances, collectively called the Internet of Things. If you heard listened to the prior presentation, there was quite a discussion on IoT devices. So the question is what is required to get started? Well, you need an internet connection, a Wi-Fi router, a smartphone or tablet, Android or iOS, connectable appliances and devices, and optionally a voice-operated controller or host, such as a Google Home or Alexa, Cortana, and we're to talk about all of those. So the Internet of Things is the concept of basically connecting any device with an on and off switch to the internet and or to each other. The IoT is a giant network of connected things, which also includes people. Connected people with embedded devices for monitoring and the analysis for wellness care and telemedicine. You heard the previous presenter talk about fabrics, which can be used for monitoring. I thought that was further interesting. So here's a list of things that make up today's automated home. We have door locks, doorbells, garage door openers, thermostats, speakers, personal assistants, refrigerators, crock pots, robots, vacuum cleaners, baby monitors, security systems, plugs and switches. And I always say a good beginning is to start with a light starter kit. That's probably the simplest way to get into home automation. And you'll find those bundled together. Google has been partnering up with GE, and they have a Google Mini device coupled up with a GE light bulb, and it's really simple to install and get started.
These pictures should match.
One of the things about home automation, there are two approaches. One is the device approach, and the other is the system approach. Now, the device approach may or may not involve the internet. It's not manufacturer specific. It can be a mix of Zigbee, Z-Wave, Instone protocols, or Wemo devices. I apologize for some of the technical terms, but we'll get more into that. But these are things that are a integral part of automating your home. So you'll hear Zigbee and Z-Wave, those names throughout this presentation, and hopefully I can explain what they are. The other options would include Bluetooth, infrared or IR, or proprietary devices, other proprietary devices, such as X10. I don't know if you're been around long enough to know, but there is a company that's been in the home automation industry for years and years, and it was really prior to internet, and so they have their own proprietary communication protocol to use to communicate with their devices. And of course, we know about the personal assistants like Alexa and the Google Home. Those can be involved if you want to be able to use voice recognition uh, to activate or provide a function. There are many different IoT devices that make up today's smart home. Now, the system approach involves the use of the internet and a Wi-Fi connection, and it typically involves the use of a hub. Smart devices can be connected through the hub. It can be manufactured specific, such as you'll see on the box, it says this particular device is designed to work with Alexa, or it's designed to work for Google Home. So you can create a ecosystem based around those devices that only work with that particular personal assistant or particular protocol, which would be like Zigbee, Z-Wave, Instone, Wemo, and Bluetooth. And I mentioned before the proprietary X10, which is really radio frequency. And then of course there's Apple, which is always outside the norm if you look at it, because their ecosystem usually is based on products that are Apple. And you'll see on boxes when you purchase this that this is a HomeKit device. So just keep that in mind. And as we go along, we'll talk more about that. So your next question is reasons for home automation. Why do we want to do this? Well, one of the things is the convenient control of many devices. Security is another issue, and it's also energy savings. So convenient control of many devices, say for instance, if you have a remote area that you frequently travel to, and you're in your living room and you want to go to your bedroom and you would like to have the light on in that bedroom when you arrive. So all you have to do is just actually ask or tell or request your device to turn on the lights in that particular area. And you can then travel in rather amount of safety without having the trouble of having to look for light switches and all of that. And again, of course, the security, you can turn the lights on the outside. And if you think you hear something, you can ask the device to turn the lights on. And so what we have there is that we get energy savings because we don't have to have these devices on all the time. They can be controlled on the demand. And the other benefit is that for most cases, particularly the bulbs, they're low wattage devices. And you can control them remotely. You don't have to be, say for instance, if you have left your home, you can turn all the lights out, the ones that you don't really need, but you usually keep them on because you want to be able to come back to a lighted home. Well, you can turn the lights off, and as when you get ready to return to your home, you can just go to your smartphone or tablet and turn those lights on, and when you arrive, they will be activated for you. So there's another approach too, is that you'll see commercial home automation and security systems. There are a lot of companies that are actually getting involved in this because it's something that people are really interested in doing for the reasons that we've cited, for security and also for convenience. So you'll find ADT and Vivint Smart Home and Cox Home, they're all involved in this industry, and they're wanting to make money on this. So they have commercial offerings. They charge installation, they charge monthly fees, they charge for the equipment, and they charge for activation. So what I'm trying to tell you is you can do it yourself. Devices cost, but you can monitor them for free. They're plug and play in a lot of instances. And the only issue that you have that's in most cases they're not integrated, they're standalone, and they might require multiple apps to control everything. That's some of the downside. But even though you have that to overcome, you can easily start out with a simple device and build from there. And as you're building, you'll learn what you need to do in order to automate the next phase of your project. So when we talk about standalones, we're talking about devices that can be installed and controlled independently. So right now, you'll find thermostats, lighting devices, doorbells, door locks, Wi-Fi, smart plugs, and household appliances. Those uh, are IoT devices that actually um, you can plug in and you control them through an app on your phone or your tablet. X10 has been in business, as I talked before, has been in business since 1978, and they have two lines, the X10 and X10 Pro products. Uh, they were used in a lot of high-end installations in homes that people wanted to have their blinds and other things automated. And so you had installers and contractors using these products. But there also were the X10 product line that you could go to a big box store and purchase them as a do-it-yourself project. And they offer a wide variety of automated security gadgets for the do-it-yourself consumer. They recently had added a Wi-Fi unit, which you can control all your X10 products from your Apple or Android smart device. But that's a new addition, and it's a Wi-Fi unit where they have that will be able to talk to all your other X10 devices that you have in your home. But these devices have stood the test of time. Like we said, they were been around for over 40 years, and so it's you'll still find people that actually have those. So the next part of your home automation is using hubs, and we'll kind of define what that means. This is going to be the controlling device for all your devices, where you can take all these independent or standalones and connect them where you can use just one app to control them all. A good example is the Google Home. You'll find that it's an app that you put on your smartphone or your tablet, and as you add them to your Wi-Fi, then the Google Home app will see those devices regardless of who the manufacturer was. It will just automatically. It will just automatically um, connect those, and you can be able to control them just from one app, rather than have multiple apps to use to control your other device, your connected devices. So the smart home automation is just a one-step solution for unifying your connected gadgets, allows controlling them from one simple app on your smartphone or tablet, and it supports the different connectivity protocols, such as Zigbee, Z-Wave, Bluetooth, for example. As I said earlier, the Zigbee and Z-Wave are protocols very similar to Bluetooth. They are a means of that is the internal mechanism that allows that device to function. Also, the hubs will have some support for IFTTT, if this then that, which allows you to configure and trigger your connected devices. So what you would do is give a recipe. If this occurs, do that. And it's a very simple way of being able to put customization to your device for those ones that are not do not have a native app to use, or the app that you have doesn't support it. So you can use this as a third-party interface to allow that device to be controlled from one application. So the types of hubs, and I'm sure you've heard of these, and they're used for controlling multiple devices, as I said before, is that there's the Samsung SmartThings, which I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's this one that's located here. And it's a device that acts as a hub and allows you to connect multiple devices using this as the communication vehicle to your smartphone or tablet. And then there's the Logitech Harmony, which is this device here. You think of Harmony devices mostly for remote controls to your TV. Well, they have expanded their control that allows you to also connect with other devices as well. So you can have your Hue light bulbs that you have. You can be able to turn those on and off using that one device, which will show up in your Google Home. And then also is Alexa, which is just column. And then there's the Google Home. This is the larger version, but there's also the smaller ones, which are referred to as Google Minis. Oh, this. So these devices, for the most part, have speakers for voice recognition, and so you can give them voice command. The Google Home or Amazon Echo Dot is the smaller version. And then there is a hybrid, which is the Amazon Echo Plus, which acts as a hub as well as a speaker. And they cost between $50 to $200. Apple runs its own game, and it's called the Apple HomePod. And as I said earlier, it is proprietary. If you're in the Apple ecosystem, then this would be the device that you would probably want to add to your home automation, because it can be controlled seamlessly from the iPad and your Mac computers. So it runs an operating system known as Audio OS, and it's an iOS-based operating system which is specifically designed for the HomePod, which is what this is called. And it integrates Siri, which can be used to control the speaker and other HomeKit devices. And the HomePod only supports proprietary Apple platforms and technologies. And in a typical fashion, it's also pricey at $350. Kind of a hidden secret is that Microsoft Cortana, which is part and parcel of Windows 10, it can also work as a virtual assistant that can help you connect and operate your electronic devices. So the skills can be found in the Cortana notebook, which is a application on your computer. If you go into Cortana, you can find where it says notebook, and you'll see where you can connect a number of different items or devices using the Cortana as your hub. So it'll manage these devices using your voice, just like you would the Google or Alexa. And the cost of that, of course, is free. So the question is, what can a hub do? So first of all, you've gotten this hub, and now you've integrated all your devices. It's being controlled by this one application, which you connect to through your smartphone or tablet. So you can then turn on your lights and other connected devices from one application. It serves as the master controller. In addition to that, if you have one that has a smart speaker involved, then it can also interact with other devices. You can do daily reminders, interact with your daily calendar, find locations of businesses, tell the weather and news, and of course you can customize tasks with IFTTT. I have several Google Minis. I have one in my kitchen and one in my bedroom, and then I also have one in the den. So what I can do is I can set reminders, I can set alarms. I particularly like the alarm part of it because I'm retired. I no longer have to get up at a certain time, so I am prone to sleep later than normal, or I should say sleep later than I would if I was working. So before I go to bed, if I know I need to get up at a certain time, all I need to do is just tell my Google device to set the alarm for a certain time. And it will automatically accept that. And at the appointed time, sound off. And and then it's done. I don't have to fiddle with having to make sure I remind myself to turn that off because it's going to go off the next day. It's just a one-time interaction. So I find that really great. Also, I can set up the daily reminders. Now, if you have like a smartphone or a tablet, you'll find that those alerts will also show up on those devices as well. So it's a really good way of interacting with your daily calendar. You can do it from multiple locations. So let's do some starter ideas. Let's look at how we can get started with a couple simple projects. So what we want to do first is that we want to make a plan. Decide what you would like to automate. You want to keep it simple, and it's something that you want to be able to do yourself. I talked to a lady recently, and she wanted to get into home automation. So what she did, she ended up calling Cox or ADT, I can't remember which one, but anyway, what the bottom line is that they came out and they discussed, what she needed and what she wanted. Well, she ended up getting a whole bundle of stuff, and in my opinion, it was much too much to start out with, even though it's what she wanted. But it was too much. It almost became overwhelming because now she had all these devices that she was trying to control, and rather than just having one simple application to start with, she had multiple ones. And so as a result, it became very confusing. So what I'm getting at is that you want to start simple. You want to just build on what you learn as you go. Don't just try to jump in at one time. And a good way to start is with one of these little Wemo mini smart plugs. They're about $30, and you can control a light or appliance that you can plug into it, and you can then control it from your phone or tablet no matter where you are. So you never have to worry you accidentally left the iron or the curling iron or whatever on, or coming home in a dark house again, because this little device will operate those devices for you. I know I've heard numerous people that our wives or girlfriends or whatever say, well, I'm always fearful that I'm going to leave my curling iron on. I forget it all the time. Well, plug this into this device, and if you think you didn't turn it off, you can go to your phone or your tablet and look and say, oh, it's on, and just use the app to shut it off. So the good thing, as I said, you can control it from your phone or tablet, and it plugs into your existing Wi-Fi network to provide wireless controls for your lamps, heaters, fans, No description, a hub required. It's just a simple plug uh, into simply plugging into your electrical outlet, and you're all set to go. And then, of course, you have to download the free Wemo app. Another quick and easy setup is the Google Home Mini and GE Life bulb combo. You'll find these at Best Buy, Lowe's, Home Depot, and they're about $35 to $40. Sometimes they're on sale. They're kind of I would say, a promotional item, but it's an easy, seamless setup. And you just plug in the Google Home Mini, which comes with the kit. Then whichever light lamp that you want to automate, you just screw that light bulb in and download the Google Home. And actually, the device will talk to you through this. So then once you have that set up, you can then dim the lights for a family movie night without leaving your couch. You can say good night, and it'll create a routine so you can turn off the lights by not even getting out of bed, and it's expandable. So the Google Mini is a really easy way to start getting into home automation. And as you build, you can add devices to it. And the Google Home app will show those devices as you install them and set up your through your Wi-Fi network. And for those that are kind of curious about the X10 wireless, which is another way of automation, this is proprietary, and so you are really stuck with using the X10 products. You can't add like the Wemo plug. The X10 would not see that, or any other devices that you might add. You would have to stay within the X10 ecosystem in order for it to be functional. But then again, it has some benefits. Is that there's a simple plug-in, the transceiver, plug-in lights or appliances, and you're up and running in seconds. So it's fairly easy, but you always have to buy X10 devices to work with it. And here's the transceiver, which allows you to use the Wi-Fi portion and allow it to run wirelessly. Of course, the big question is security, and it's something that we're just going to have to live with. That there's always going to be bad people out there to hack into your network. So it's something that we just have to prepare for and try to protect ourselves. So unfortunately, a lot of the IoT malware will target non-PC embedded devices, such as these little plugs I was talking about. Many are internet accessible, and because of that, because they lack an operating system and processing power limitations, they do not include advanced security features. They're designed to be plugged in and forgotten, and that's where the issue comes. But you can control this. First of all, the precautions you need to take is using the same password for a shopping site account, and that site is breached, your login information could end up in the wrong hands. People with access to your credentials can cause all kinds of issues. So you should really enable two-step verification. Choose strong passwords. Check whether or not your email address and password has been breached using this website, haveibeenpawned.com/passwords. I'll just, it looks like this. And here you just type in your password, and then it will tell you whether or not it has been compromised. Um, but the thing about what we're saying here, this is something that is done at the router. And that's the next phase, is that your router is your key to good security. So the router is the one that will protect your home network. It will keep your home network. You need to keep your home network router software up to date, and also set up and use a guest network if your Wi-Fi router supports that. The other thing is to remember is that if your router is older than 5 years, then you need to strongly consider replacing it, because there has been new advances that have been done, new protocol which actually has improved the security aspect of the router. Whether you're buying your router from, renting your router from your internet provider, or you just or have just owned it outright, you need to consider replacing that. You can call your provider and ask them if they have a newer router available. If not, a lot of cases you can just go out and outright buy one and just have them activate it for you. So your router really should not be older than, in my opinion, older than 5 years. Because as we say here, is that most IT devices connect through your Wi-Fi, and your routers have built-in firewalls to minimize the intrusion. And a router can determine the purpose of the router is to determine where to send information from one computer to another. And you want that to be a secure link. So it has really 3 separate related jobs. It's going to ensure that the information doesn't go where it's not needed, to make sure that the information security makes it to the intended destination. And of course, it's going to encrypt that information as it travels to its next destination. So if there's a depressing slogan for the early era of commercial internet, it's this: privacy is dead, get over it. I know that's rather cynical, but that's the truth. So if privacy isn't dead yet, then billions upon billions of chips, sensors, and wearables will seal the deal. Because most IoT devices require location services turned on to be functional, and they are listening in a listening mode 24/7. So IoT is more than just the internet-connected refrigerators. It also represents a move to have even more objects networked and embedded. So as we go along, you're going to see a lot more of devices that are able to communicate with other devices. So if you want to stay protected, these are kind of the 9 steps that you want to look at. You want to research the capabilities, security features of an IoT device before you purchase. So on the box, it's going to tell you some information. So when you're looking at your first device, just look at the box and see exactly what it says and try to understand what it's saying. And if you're unsure, ask the sales clerk, because a lot of these people now, they're in, particularly at Best Buy, a lot of these people are very knowledgeable in the home automation devices that they sell, and they can really kind of steer you in the right direction. And I know in my case, I have not been steered wrong with talking with them. So just take that as a bit of advice. And if you're still unsure about what they're saying, you can always go back and do some additional research. The other thing, you want to keep your router up to date, and if not, replace it with a newer model. You want to use strong passwords for your Wi-Fi network. Use strong encryption when you're setting up your Wi-Fi network, and I think the standard now is WPA. You can't. There are other ones that are available that are stronger, but the de facto standard, I think, is WPA. And if you can, you want to disable any unrequired features of services built into devices. One of the ones you don't want to turn off is location, because that is kind of the crux of that device, and it needs to know that information in order to function properly. So if you have the option of turning the location services off, you might want to think twice of how that device is being used and if the location services are really necessary. But I think in most cases, location services are going to be needed, will be needed to be turned on. So you want to disable and protect your remote access on those if it's not needed as well. So if you're the only one that's using the device, then we really may not want to, you may want to control how, whether the remote access is turned on or off. Use wired connections when possible. That's almost impossible these days because most things are going to be wireless. But if by chance it is you can use a wired device. I know the Google Homes and the Google Minis can be connected to a wired connection. And if the router is within range or within the same location, that's easily done. But if not, you have to rely on the wireless connectivity. Of course, on your computers, you want to maintain the up-to-date antivirus software. And then again, regularly check manufacturer's website for firmware updates for your devices. We tend to forget a lot of devices that are kind of set aside, and you only use them. You use them all the time, but you never think about going to the manufacturer's website to see if there's a firmware update or whatever. A lot of the new devices are pretty good at giving you an alert that says firmware update available. So if you see that, I strongly suggest that you go ahead and do that. Now, there's a new project that's come along that's called CHIP, and it's called Project Connect Home on IP. And it's going to solve a lot of problems with home automation, and so it's going to attempt to make it simpler and easier for people to be able to set up their automated home. It's an industry group that's comprised of Apple, Google, Amazon, the Zigbee Alliance, and what they're going to do is try to take a half a dozen incompatible standards and consolidate those. So if you're out shopping for smart home products, you'll have an endless sea of choices. And I just kind of described that in our discussion. Just selling on SmartBugs present more decisions and more questions. Should you get the Wi-Fi version, the Z-Wave version, or the Zigbee? And the other problem is that none of these work together. Hence, that's why we have to have the hub, because it then kind of brings all that together. But each standard which is out there today has a number of vulnerabilities and defects. And the network has created a dozen different ways that it connects, which leaves you with a dozen of cracks that threaten to bring your system down. So what this whole project plans to do is make manufacturing secure and cross-compatible, make smart devices that are more accessible to consumers. It's going to work in the background. You won't pay attention to how your smart locks communicate with your smart blinds. If you have a Google Home or Alexa to control your devices, you can continue using it as you do today. These chip-enabled devices won't break your current devices. So, again, if smart homes are going to become more commonplace and mainstream, then this is what needs to happen. They need to be easy to set up and use. you need to be able to skip using a hub and go straight to the device setup. They need to be plug and play. You open the app, plug in the gadget, and then pair. And then if you have voice control, you may never need to use the device app again because you will do everything to voice control. So one of the problems that we have today is that when you connect dozens of Wi-Fi smart gadgets, they can slow down your Wi-Fi. So this new protocol that they're coming with is going to kind of eliminate that, because the Wi-Fi smarts won't need to connect directly to the main router. And also, along with that, we'll be moving from a 2.4 gigahertz to a 5 gigahertz. There are some Wi-Fi home devices that only connect to the 2.4 gigahertz. I have a doorbell that only works on 2.4. So hopefully in the future, they'll be able to use the 5 gigahertz. And the issue is that 2.4 gigahertz gives you a better range, and it's not nearly as directional as 5 gigahertz. So that's kind of the issue with the between the two, is that 5 gigahertz gives you faster speed, but it's kind of a line of sight, where the 2.4 gigahertz tends to be more of a scattered, non-directional signal. So that's the reason why, but hopefully that's going to improve at some point. So this group, according to their website, they're going to be releasing a draft specification in late 2020. The actual products that support the chip thread connectivity standard will arrive later. Everything is in a very early stage of development. As you can see, they kind of have lofty goals. Smaller groups have tried to accomplish this with not much traction. But with the likes of Philips Hue, Google, Amazon working together, they think that the standard will come along faster and become accessible to everyone. So Wi-Fi, which is kind of what they're going to be moving towards with chip, is that Wi-Fi isn't a standard, where Z-Wave, Zigbee, and Instant-On are. And these are kind of an agreed upon standards. So what will happen is that when this all comes together, Wi-Fi will then become the common connection over IP. And with the Wi-Fi, it will be able to conform to those standards. So that's what's going to make it easier to connect, is that we'll just be using, everything will be going over Internet Protocol, Wi-Fi over IP. And it will then be very simple to just connecting it to your Wi-Fi, and everything will be will run through that protocol. So it gives it eliminates the need to learn and relearn how to connect and use things. It'll make more people comfortable with the thought of installing smart home devices, which could lead to more sales, and allows Wi-Fi devices to stand on their own without the need of hubs or voice assistants. So that kind of puts it in a nutshell. I know I threw out a lot of information, but I'll be willing to answer any questions at this point if I need to clarify anything I've said. John, can you help me out with that?
Yep, we'll ask them if they have the questions to send them through on the chat box for you. I think you've done a good job of giving us a good beginning, especially on how to get started. Do I remember, do you have both the Alexa and the Google at your place?
I just have only the Google Home. I have a
Okay.
Google Home, and then I have two minis.
Okay.
But there's no problem. You can have both devices installed. You can have an Alexa and a Google Home with no problems. Just remember which watchword to use.
Can you use the plug-in devices along with a commercial system?
Yes, if you have your have used ADT or some other ones to get your basic uh, home automation started, you can buy the plugs because they're just going to connect to your Wi-Fi and install the app. Now, if you might be lucky if uh, I believe ADT and some of the others are using, they'll probably have their app that will that control the system as a whole. So the only thing that you'll be forced with, say for instance, you got the Wemo plug, it probably won't be part of that ecosystem. So you'll have a separate app to control that. You just have to just use that app rather than using the ADT or Cox or whoever. But you can add to your network as many of those devices as you like without messing up anything else.